Hello everyone. So today we are going to talk about the migration crisis because the impact here is made on our lives. So Europe is a continent in crisis. In fact, Europe is a continent in the midst of several crises. From questions about its conscience, its political ideals, its humanitarian responsibility to the rest of the world, how or if at all it's going to enforce its borders, and the massive demographic changes that it's facing. These are some of the most dramatic changes Europe has ever faced, but this change has been a long time coming. We have seen what happened to dictators since a few years ago. Such of them were violently thrown out of office, and slew of other uprisings made their way to places like Syria, arbitering in a bloody civil war. The chaos in place just kilometers away from Europe's borders. By 2015, over a quarter of Syria's population had found themselves displaced, with refugees looking to make their way to nearby countries like Lebanon, Turkey, and Jordan. Continuing instability soon meant refugees looking to make their way illegally into the European Union. So far, the mainstream conversation has been dominated by talk of refugees, drawing in the Mediterranean and questions of what is our humanitarian responsibility to people fleeing war and persecution. One asking questions about the women who are raped and mass in Cologne, and of cultural compatibility and religious compatibility. Just how many people can Europe handle? There is so many opinions on this issue from all different political perspectives. But we really wanted to take a look at this without lens of politics. Just how many people are coming into Europe? Where are they coming from? Who are they? What has been Europe's response? How many of these people are economic migrants? And what actually happens to them once they arrive on the shores? Turkey saw more than 60% of all Syrian refugees arrivals to their country. More than 3.5 million people. At the height of the crisis in 2015, the pathway between Turkey and Greece saw more crossings than any other route into Europe. The reason behind why they are choosing Turkey is because this is where the migrants coming from all over the Middle East take their first step into Europe. Whether it be the islands off the coasts of Greece or Bulgaria. This is where it is all happening. Whether the traffickers are collecting the money and sending them off on the boats, sneaking them into trucks and across the border, where all of this begins. So if you notice that there's Turkish perspective to this migrant crisis, and it is not quite what people think it is. They also feel that their homeland is being affected by this, and not in a good way. And they're also confused by this open border policy going on Europe and their homeland. That is something that I've never heard of. We should notice that this raises European opinions that people cannot come in and they cannot assimilate. But Turkish people also recognize that they have a different culture to different Middle Eastern countries as well. There's a clash going on and a crisis going on here right at the beginning. That was just fascinating. Now, one thing we know from 2015 to 2016, 80% of all Syrian nationals' asylum applications into Europe were accepted, with 40% of all other countries being accepted into Europe. Only about 3% were rejected during this time frame, with the rest being delayed until next year. We know that in 2017, Germany accepted the most out of any other countries into Europe. That means 261 asylum applications, and not included those who illegally entered.
I've been here in Mytilene for 4 months. I'm mainly based at the clinic here, but I have been doing some sessions, going over to Moria and working in the camp there a little bit. Moria camp has 9,000, more than 9,000 now. We're having 100 people arrive each day. There was, on the 16th of September, there were 324 arrivals to the island. So there are small movements off the island, but actually that's only, it's not decongesting. There are so many people in a camp that was originally designed for 3,100. So we need to get people who already, have been identified as being vulnerable. They need to be moved off the island to the mainland, and so they can be looked after, there.
Thank you so much.
It's a crazy situation.
Yeah. It's tough. We spoke to a few people. Oh, I wish I could go home now. I regret coming.
It's difficult to say. I mean, at the clinic here we see largely single men.
I mean, a lot of the people that we've spoken to are showing us like stab-wounds and stuff like that, and it's just...
Yeah. I think you put 8,000 people into a place, and then, you are putting some ethnic groups together, but it's just the context. You put 8,000 people together, and they don't know how long they're going to be there. They don't have any hope. You're going to get violence. Of course, you're going to get violence.
I guess 8,000 people kind of at the end of
I'm sorry, but well. It's just a recipe for disaster.
So we wanted to know just how many of these people are still coming in. Who are they? In 2080, is this process still working the way it was initially supposed to, given the huge numbers of people and the authorities' apparent inability to handle this crisis, the scope of this crisis? It is no wonder that we are seeing an increase in migration-related crime, with a wave of major terror attackers across Europe following the influx of millions of newcomers in 2015 and 2016 to an increase in rape, knife crime, and murder. Trust in the European Union's ability to handle this crisis is at an all-time low.
At the European Parliament in Brussels, a small but growing number of MEPs are working to highlight not just the cultural cost, but also the economic...
Research is going to show it's somewhere in the region to 150 billion euros to 200 billion euros a year for all the 27 European countries and the European Union funding together. This is not sustainable.
Merkel let in 2 million people. That has had a profound effect on the societies, and especially, particularly the Nordic regions as well, in Denmark, Sweden, Norway, that's not actually in the EU but is part of the Schengen area as well. That's had a profound effect.
Emmanuel Macron qui veut poursuivre dans ce modèle de l'immigration que nous subissons, une immigration qui vient principalement du Maghreb, d'Afrique subsaharienne, et évidemment cette immigration elle a des conséquences dramatiques, des conséquences économiques et sociales très lourdes. La France elle compte 6 millions de chômeurs, de personnes qui cherchent un emploi, plus de 9 millions de personnes qui vivent en dessous du seuil de pauvreté. Donc évidemment ce sont l'une des conséquences de l'immigration.
The Migration Advisory Committee said that large-scale migration hasn't brought the huge economic benefits that the left have argued. Actually, in some cases, and particularly now is provable, if you're poor across Europe, you've actually suffered. Your wages have declined. You've become more cramped, more dense in the housing. It's been more difficult to try and get into social services. Those have been accepted facts now.
And then there's billions spent on communications, a migrant compact. It's just billions and billions and billions wasted, where actually we could just be centering on the answers, which is our answers, which the voters want, is that we stop the migration coming and the fast tracking of the migrants that are already here, and then to stop more coming. And it is by bilateral negotiation and not by the EU. The EU doesn't have the solution, they are the problem.
Segregation in Swedish cities. You're already beginning to see segregation in German cities. It's well recognised that if you have large-scale migration rather than drip-feed migration that fits into the economic needs that we have, you'll get segregation, separation, and also people starting to look at each other in a very negative way. This is not the future for countries in Europe.
In some of Europe's often overlooked outlying countries, militia groups have taken it upon themselves to bolster Europe's professional border security, often patrolling the deep forests at the continent's far-flung borders.
The height of this movement of people was back in 2015 and 2016. So Europe has had over 2 years to watch the dust begin to settle. But where are these people now? What they are doing? Did they get the lives that they dreamed of, that they are promised, or are they just glad to be safe? What about those who came for work? Did they ever find what they were looking for? I wanted to know whether all of this chaos and confusion was ever worth it. Okay, finally I had some understanding of the migration crisis coming from political background, and now there's some questions I need to ask you. Are these people invaders? Are they intend to destroy the Western world? Of course not. I think a lot of them like me and you, just born in very unfortunate countries with unfortunate situation that they hopes and dreams of living. Are they refugees? I cannot sit here and lie to you and to pretend that they were. I think the majority of them coming from countries that were not in war, people that have enough money to buy tickets to get these boats, who had sold houses that they owned in their home countries, who had businesses in their home countries. But they certainly were not coming for the sole purpose of just invading the West, pillaging its resources. That they are either escaping terror or just coming to pillage Europe.
Okay, so we just live in the mountains.
The truth is, they have been sold a lie. You know, you have all these people who are constantly chanting open borders, you know, who wanted to help those who genuinely hearts believe they are doing good, or they just think that bring these people in is the most humanitarian and beautiful thing that you can do for both Europe and these migrants. But where are they when these people are sleeping under bridges? Where are they when these people are living on the streets? And eventually when we figure it all out, you're gonna have a very broken and poor Europe. And a lot of hungry, homeless, lost, and displaced people who were sold a lie, and a lot of them a very wealthy men. So that is about it for this video. We just really wanted to talk about the migration crisis because the impact here is made in our lives. But we really hope that you understood what's going on. That will be better for you and me. That is a good thing that I can do right now for us and for anyone else out there that struggles with this problem. So thank you so much everyone for watching this video. We will be back soon.